Launch control. Okay, here we go. I'm Bruce Morehouse, and I race the green all-wheel drive Volkswagen in the streetcar classes in tournament-style drag racing. So we race on a Pro tree, which is a tree that flashes yellow and then it flashes green real fast, and it's hard to get consistent launches with a clutch on that style of a tree for me anyways. So over the years I've tried a few different strategies, and I've kind of come up with my own that I've been using for the past couple of years, and it basically combines all the good elements of a few other strategies and puts them all together and ties it all together in the Fueltech software. It's where it's all programmable in the software, and it's controlled by the computer, controlled by the software. I don't have to worry about turning any dials or making any adjustments or everything. It's, all the adjustments are done in the software. There's no no pressure valves to adjust or anything like that. So it's all computer controlled, and I'm going to share it with you today. So here we go. Okay, so let's get into this contraption here and how it works. We'll start off with the hydraulic system. Okay, so how we set it up is, so this is the line coming in from the clutch pedal. This is a JEGS line lock solenoid, so that's just your basic line lock solenoid. Now that solenoid is normally open, so that allows clutch pressure to go through from the pedal all the way to the slave cylinder. This is where this goes to your clutch slave cylinder here. So this is a ProMeth switching solenoid that is normally closed. So this valve is normally closed, and then these two are needle valves, which are Parker hydraulic needle valves. So I had to use two of them to choke the fluid way down to get it to move slow enough to where I could get a tunable curve on the clutch pressure. So, and then this is a pressure transducer that reads the pressure, tells the ECU what the clutch pressure is. Okay, so basically, all right, let's see how it works. So you press the clutch pedal in, the clutch is pushed in, you're ready to launch. You dump the clutch, you launch it. The clutch pressure transducer reads the clutch pressure, and then the air compressor will kick on. So what we're doing is we're using the air compressor control in the Fueltech software to click off and on that line lock solenoid. So here we have air compressor pressure set up. Now that's hooked up to the clutch line. So this is actually clutch line pressure, and it's by a factor of 10. So 740 is 74.4 psi. So because the air compressor you can't make it up to 1,000. So that's easy enough. So that's how that works. So here we go. You dump the clutch, air compressor kicks on. That's your set number, and then that holds the clutch pressure for whatever you have the relay timer set for. And then the relay timer turns off, shuts off, and then lets out all the rest of the pressure. So that's basically what the Hitmaster does, but with one big difference. You don't have to release the clutch from the pedal stop. So when I'm racing on a Pro tree in the tournament style, the Pro tree, it's real hard to bump the second lights and then push the pedal back in to hit the pedal stop, and then by the time the light turns green, you got to release from that pedal stop to get going, to get repeatable clutch pressure on your launch. So it worked fine. It worked great. So it worked fine for me, like during qualifying, during test and tune. But when I got up to the Pro tree and it was time to race, depending on who goes in first or whatnot, or what's going on at the light or in the staging games, I can bump the second light, and by the time I push the clutch back in to hit the pedal stop and then let the clutch go again when the light turns green, the light's been green and the guy's already gone. So it's like, it's tough to get it to be competitive, in that way. So this is what I came up with. It's computer controlled, and it works pretty much every time. It does exactly what you tell it to do in the software. So that is the stage one part of the contraption here. So here's a quick look at what it looks like in the car. So this is that schematic that I showed you. This line goes to the clutch, the slave cylinder. This is where the line comes in. Clutch fluid goes in, passes through this normally open, and then goes to the pedal. So this is the solenoid that's controlled by the computer to slam that door shut once the air compressor triggered it. Okay, so that's phase one of the clutch management system. That brings us to phase two, which is this ProMeth solenoid and these two needle valves. So this basically just works like a slipper valve with a off-on switch, which is this solenoid here. So this valve is normally closed. So when this is locked, the pressure in this line is held steady. So what I found is I wanted to launch at a higher pressure, and then here, let's look at this control. I'll explain it. So I want to launch up here, but then once I get some wheel speed on the car and get the car moving like 5 or 10 feet, I want to add some more clutch to it. So I want to bleed some more of that pressure off the slave cylinder. So if I launched too deep into this, then it would break something or spin, not enough, and then it would just slip the whole way through. So I found my sweet spot here, and then after you find the sweet spot, then you use that other valve to bleed off some of the pressure here, get a little bit more, bleed off some more of the pressure, and then right around here is where it locks up, and then the timer times out. So let's go through that again real quick. So this valve here, the clutch bleeds through. These two Parker valves. The reason why I had to use two Parker valves is because with one, I couldn't get it to bleed off slow enough. Like notch one was too slow. Notch 2 on the valve was too fast. So I used two of these Parker valves on notch 2, and that gave me the slow bleed that I needed off the clutch pressure. So that's why I have two of those. You can use, I mean, you might find something else that works, as well, but I had to use two of them to get my desired results here. So, okay, let's look at the software. So that's how that works. So dump the clutch. The air compressor turns on. Let's see. Let's turn on the air compressor here. Air compressor. Okay. So here. We'll zoom in. Zoom way in. Okay, so here clutch pressure is around 690. Right here you dump the clutch. Pressure gets moving, and then bang. The air compressor right here, the air compressor kicks on. There's a little bit of latency, so you set this to kick on. I have it set at 45, so it kicks on at 45, and then it catches that line pressure at 300, it looks like. So it catches me in the sweet spot pretty much every time. So that's where that works. We'll zoom back out. So that's holding that clutch pressure. Then the progressive nitrous kicks on for a split second there. Bleeds off some pressure, and then you can do it again, bleeds off some more pressure, then the clutch will lock up right around there for me, and then the timer times out. Okay. So I think that explains those two parts of the system. Okay. Now let's go to the electrical wiring schematic here. And that is launch control files. There we go. Okay, let's get into this. This is how it's all wired up. Okay, this is the Fueltech ECU. It takes 3 inputs. This is the white input here for the air pressure. That tells you hook that to the clutch line, and that tells the ECU what it thinks the air compressor pressure is. So you're monitoring air compressor with the clutch line. Okay, and then this is the trigger that I have on my staging brake. I have a button on the staging brake that I push that button, and that activates the 2-step, and it also activates this delay timer relay. So this is a delay timer relay. When I let go of this button, it turns off the 2-step, but it holds the switch on here for 2 seconds. So you let go of the button, 2 seconds later this relay turns off, which will kill power to these solid state relays, and also turns off the nitrous activation. So, okay, well, let's move from there here. Okay, next is the white input is the progressive nitrous activation trigger. So you set that up as a positive trigger in the Fueltech software, And then that activates the progressive nitrous that we use to control this secondary solenoid valve. Okay, so that's how that works. And then this relay also powers these two solid state relays. So this relay sends power to these two relays for 2 seconds after you let go of this button. Okay, sounds pretty simple. Okay, so now that we have these two relays activated for 2 seconds, now what controls them is going to be this blue wire here. This blue output from the Fueltech controls the air compressor off and on. So it's like so it turns the compressor on when it hits a certain pressure that's below. So it's on below, off above is how you set it up in the software. We'll get into that in a minute here. So this is the air compressor control, which controls this relay, solid state relay, and then that controls this line lock solenoid. Okay. Now this other blue output from the Fueltech ECU goes to the progressive nitrous output. Now this controls this solid state relay, which controls this solenoid, which controls the secondary part of the clutch contraption system strategy, whatever you want to call it. That controls this solenoid here. So here, real quick. So this is the line lock. This is the secondary solenoid. This one's controlled by the nitrous. This one's controlled by the air compressor. And then those two get power from this relay, which comes off this button right here. Okay. So I think that's okay. So this gets ignition, power. You power these up with 12 volts ignition. This relay gets 12 volts ignition. The button, you're going to do a positive trigger because this takes a positive trigger to trigger this delay relay. So you just set up your white input as a positive trigger in the Fueltech software. Okay, so I think that covers that. So next, let's go into the Fueltech software and we'll set it up. Okay, so here we are in the Fueltech software. Progressive nitrous number 2, that's what I'm using to run the clutch controller. Air compressor control, compressed air controller here, that's clicked on, and also the 2-step rev limiter. So those are the 3 features that I use to control the clutch. Okay, so let's start off with the inputs. So we'll click over here to input setup. Progressive nitrous 2 arm switch. I have that set up as a positive signal. So remember that this sends out a positive signal off of this timer relay. So that's the progressive nitrous input. Okay, so progressive nitrous arm switch. So that means that the nitrous is only going to be armed for while that relay is clicked on. So that's from the time you press the button to 2 seconds after you let it go. So that's how long the nitrous is armed for. So it's only going to work for the first 2 seconds while you want it to work. Air compressor pressure. So that is an analog pressure gauge. So I have it. The pressure in the software only goes up to like 100 and something. So I have 1,000 psi transducer, but you just have to reduce it down by a factor of 10. So instead of 0.5 equals 0, 4.5 equals 1,000, you just change that to 100. So then that gives you an accurate read, and you just move the decimal place over by 1. Okay, that's those two. And then 2-step input. 2-step input, you just set that up as a positive signal. So that works off the button there. Okay, those are the inputs. All right, so let's go to the air compressor control. How to set that up. Compressed air control. That is this feature here. So you want to check the box always enabled. So that output just clicks off and on all day long. So no matter what, it's just clicking off and on. But it's only going to be active while you have that relay timer going. So turn on below 45. That's where I have it set. So that's where I found my sweet spot is. So if I click it on at 45, catches is at 300. So you got to figure out where your sweet spot is and where you want it to catch it. So that's how you set that up. Oh, and then on above, so you want it to turn off when it's above a set point. So in my car, around 690, 700 psi is where the clutch pressure is when I have the pedal fully depressed. So you want the relay to be off while you're bumping the lines or moving up or staging or any of that stuff. So you have enough, so you can move that pressure enough to where it doesn't activate the it doesn't activate the compressor while you're bumping the lights or you're staging or anything like that. I think I can show you. So yeah, so here's an air compressor pressure up here at the top of this one. So you can see I'm inching forward, bump the lights there. It never dips below the spot where it activates that until I actually dump the clutch right there. Okay. So that's how you set up the air compressor control. Let's go to outputs. So here we go. Progressive nitrous 2. You just set that up as a blue output. That's going to run those solid state relay. And also I use a yellow output, but you can use a blue one too. Yellow is the air compressor output. So you use an output to control the solid state relay. So these two outputs here, one runs the solid state for the line lock, one runs the methanol solenoid. Okay, that's the outputs. Now let's go to nitrous control. Progressive nitrous number 2. So that's the one that I use to run that secondary part, stage 2 of the clutch controller. So progressive nitrous 2, you want to set this up by time. So what that means is, like, when you let go of the button, it triggers a validated launch scenario. So that's when the nitrous becomes active. So it becomes active by time. So when you let go of the button, launch the car, it's going to stay active for however long you hold that button. And that button is activated by this external switch here. So if you see here the external switch, that's what's going to be this one right here. So that's this white input progressive nitrous activation trigger. Okay, so then input activation at 12 volts because the relay is at 12 volts. And then you just leave all this stuff zeroed out. 0, 0, 0. And then the output signal is output activated at 0. Remember that the output activation is going to send a negative signal to activate these relays. So this relay here is controlled by the nitrous, and that needs a negative signal to trigger this relay to run this solenoid. All right. So now you go to time-based. Now this is where you set it up different. So you want to set this time scale from 0 to 2 seconds. So you got to go up and rescale this axis. So you can see what I did here on this column axis. It usually goes from 0 to like 25 seconds, or however long you want to make your run, 0 to 10 seconds, or however long you normally would use a nitrous. But if you rescale this from 0 to 2 seconds, that gives you a much more workable time zone here to run this secondary relay. So you can see here, so let's go, time is at 0, launch at 0.7 seconds out, I give it a 50, and then it goes to 100. So that is, so these numbers here are duty cycle. So 100% just means that the switch is on. 50% just means that it's halfway on. It's like it clicks off and on, but you just want it to be on for that, for that split second. So it clicks on, depending on how you have your slipper valve set up, is how much time you want to bleed off that solenoid. So the way I have it set, it works. This is how it works. So that's 0.7. So that's 0.70. That's 0.10 seconds. So that's a tenth of a second. So it clicks on for a tenth of a second there, adds some more clutch pressure, and then bleeds off a little bit of clutch pressure, and then it waits and it holds that pressure at that time there. And then the nitrous will click on again here for another second, for another, let's see, 0.3, another 0.2 seconds, and then it clicks on again here at the end. So let's look at what that does. So here's the progressive nitrous in the log. So right here is where time starts the timer at 0. So right there, I'll zoom in a little bit. Okay, so here, air compressor kicks on. We're holding line pressure here. Okay, so then here, boom. Right here is where that secondary nitrous clicks that solenoid open, bleeds off a little bit of pressure. Okay, then switches off. And then you come out another, however long you want. Click it on again. You can bleed off some more pressure. And then right about here's where I lock up, bleeds off some more. And then the timer will time out. So what this does, so if you want to like get a good slip, you set this higher so the clutch starts slipping. Get a couple of feet, get out a couple of feet before you add some more clutch pressure, because what I found is I would either break some stuff if I try and launch too hard, or if I'm lucky, the tires would spin. So I want to give it a little, just enough so it starts slipping the clutch a little bit, get going a few feet, and then add some more clutch in. Get going a few more feet, like 10 feet, 15 feet, whatever, add some more clutch in, and then add some more clutch in. Because if you just dump it like the Headmaster and go straight into your zone, it's hard to, this is a lot, I mean, you can, you tune it a lot more. It gives you a way bigger tuning window, to work with, and then you can set all this stuff up in the software. So you don't have to turn a dial, you don't have to set the valve. Once the needle valves are set, they're set forever. You don't have to touch anything. I haven't touched that clutch valve in years. So except for, when you change end, you gotta bleed it out a little bit, but once it's set, it's set. Everything's done here in the Fueltech software. So you don't have to turn any valves, don't have to adjust anything, don't have to worry about your pedal stop, pushing the button, pushing the clutch back in to hit the pedal stop. Oh, did I get the pedal all the way back in? Am I going to break something? It goes by pressure. The computer reads it, takes my human error out of the trying to get the clutch right. Okay, so I think that about covers everything in the software. Yeah, I think so. Okay, that about wraps up my launch control strategy, how I built it, how I set it up in the Fueltech software. Works good for me, gives me a good reaction time off the line. I'm able to slip the clutch and bleed off some of that clutch pressure off the slave cylinder a few feet out, or however, get a good 60 foot. And yeah, so hopefully that covers everything. And maybe in the future, Fueltech could probably put together a feature package that actually does clutch control, instead of me having to piece it together, with the air compressor controller, the progressive nitrous, and then the relay timer. I mean, they could actually program, build a feature in the software that does all that, as one feature in the software. So, okay. Well, hopefully that covers everything. And if you got any questions or comments, let me know, and I'll try and answer them the best I can. Thanks.